Okay. Well, hello, I am Marina, and next slide, I will be presenting about culture care. Culture care is birth in all settings, and it relates to the culture of the birth in the different settings. And my experience is that I have worked in hospitals, and home, two practices. One was MD, the hospital and home was with an MD, and the other one was with a CNM and an obstetrician. And then I have done home and birth center birth, two different practices. One was with CNMs and an obstetrician, and the other practice was with CPNs. And so that's my background. I don't know all. And this is what I'm going to be talking to you, if we have enough time, through the talk today, and you'll discover as we go. All about culture care. Next. And so what day is today? Culture. Let's talk about culture. What day is today? Well, in the United States, it's celebrated on 2/2, the day of the groundhog. The groundhog comes out of the ground, takes a look around, and he goes, how is the weather going to be? Well, if you ask me, I will think of Oya. Oya is a Arisha, and very popular in Cuba, and she's celebrated today through La Candelaria, and also in October to Santa Teresa. So she comes around quite a bit. And Ollado is the protector of the pelvis area, the abdomen, and she is the protector of the blood, the womb, the fallopian tubes, the breast. And interesting, she's also the weather. She brings the storm. She's consciousness, and she's for justice. And don't mess with Oya too much, really, because she can bring some phenomenal storms. And in this lecture, I'm going to be talking of the different cultures, and language I am using is ancestral language. And also I am touching in different cultures. You might be part of these cultures yourself and might even know more than I do about it. And so I have to be careful because we're talking about Oya. Oya can whip up the weather. Oya also can clean it up. You know, after a big, huge storm, it all releases and then the weather settles. She can clean up the mess. And it's both the weather outside and it is our consciousness, the weather of thoughts. Okay, next slide. And so Oya can also bring the rainbow. She is not the rainbow, but she can bring the rainbow. And one of the other celebrations that we got going today is that yesterday the water tiger year started for the Chinese community. You're in San Francisco, and you're probably aware that the Chinese New Year started yesterday. The male side of Oya is a tiger. The totem is a tiger, and the lightning that she can carry. She can be also used as purring, as a little cat, but the tiger is ferocious. So how do we make this sweetness with the weather? And the other thing that I wanted to tell you was that today is the International Day of the Wetlands. Wetlands are ossuaries. That's where the little fish and the little life comes to be in the planet. So it's an international day of that. You might hear about that because you live in San Francisco. So environmental folks are doing that. And for midwifery, we need the sweetness. We need that sweet rain. The wetlands also need wetness, but not a huge storm. We need the wetness to come easy. And so if I was to sit with Oya today, she also takes care of the ancestors, very close to the ancestors, and tell her about the birth that I have attended. What would I tell her and how would she react? And so I want to share with you 3 different births. I'm not going to tell you what setting it is, and see if you can imagine where it happened. Okay, birth number 1. The birthing person is a 4th time pregnancy. The first 2 were done in a home, and she was able to move around and have the baby. The 3rd one was in the hospital, and the main thing about this birth is the question, could I move around? Am I going to be okay with that? Because that 3rd baby was not right. Say, yeah, you can. And so labor starts very quiet, very introspective, and at some point needs to get up, wants to go to the bathroom, goes to the bathroom. There is homing going on from the bathroom coming out, but then I hear it. And well, sounds like the baby's coming. Do you want to get back? Want to get back in the bed? And a voice comes from the bathroom saying, I'll be right out. Well, another contraction happens, and more grunting happens, and then she moves out. And as she's walking towards the bed, leans over a dresser and grunts, and the baby starts to groan. And I make the suggestion about next contraction to the bed, and nope, standing right here. And so the equipment was mobile. I got it really close to her, set a stereophil on the floor. Babies don't fall in the floor, by the way, anyway, but I like to conserve the floor, and got ready to catch the baby. And as the baby came through, flipped it up to her. She embraced him for her, and took 2 steps back, sat on the bed, delivered the placenta, and then leaned back, semi-sitting with the baby smiling. Okay. Second birth. This particular family wanted a skin-to-skin contact. It was just about the biggest thing. And so was the longest labor, not really for a first-time mom, but it was kind of longish. And by morning, squatting, semi-squatting, pushing the baby, everything is going really good. Crowns starts to come out, and then there is that turtle sign. Baby rears back. I then make sure that all the equipment is closer to me, and that we might have maybe a shoulder dystocia, something, immediate reaction, and got the person that was in charge of calling the emergency folks, the extra folks, to come on using case. And so I check to see what's going on. There is a cord. I try to reduce it. There is another contraction, and the cord becomes very pale, and it's not allowing restitution. It's not allowing much of anything. The cord is very tight, and it's not around the neck. It's around like the shoulder, keeping everything back. So it goes into hands and knees, and I do have to cut the cord, which I very seldom do. And the moment that I do, the baby releases right out. So it was the cord that was holding it back. The baby has a little bit, the up guards is a little low, and so initiate a bit of CPR or neonatal CPR. And by the time we got to 5-minute rap guard, the full team was there. Babies, I think the app guard was like a 7. By the 10-minute, it's actually nursing and skin contact. All of that is going on really well. What did the team do when they came to help me? Actually, by then, things have evolved so quickly that I handled pretty much what needed to happen, except that I needed a call to the pediatrician to make sure, talk to the pediatrician about it, see whether what the pediatrician said, that if it's nursing and looking good, fine, that it would make rounds around noon, see the baby, no need to take the baby anywhere. Everything got settled, and the mother and father and baby and family that were there all settled down, and it was good. And breastfeeding got established really well, by the way. So, third birth. This baby is half Native American, Chumash tribe. The Chumash tribe at that point, and still today, are really totally recovering their culture. At that point, that was early 80s, they didn't even have tribal status. They have been putting in the land without tribal status, so they were even trying to get that. So it was very important that the welcoming song, Chumash welcoming song, and I was in Chumash land at that point in Santa Barbara, where I am today, that the welcoming song would be sung as the baby was being born. And that's what we did. I actually learned this song, and the baby was welcomed with the singing of the welcoming song. And when the time came to cut the cord, a obsidian knife was prepared. It had been sterilized with other instruments, and with another song, and with the obsidian knife, the father cut the cord. Oh. So, where do you think those babies were born? I think that Oya will be happy with my stories, and the ancestors will be happy with my stories, because it's about preserving the culture of the folks, the people, everything. Next. So, more festivities. I'm going to give you a little tour of festivities of today. If a baby is being born today in Bolivia, what are they doing over there today? Well, there is a celebration of the birth of the Inca people that is happening in Lake Titicaca every February 2nd. And they go to the island of the sun and the moon. And there is also parades and festivities. And all of this is in association with Candelaria, which I also have mentioned already, Candelaria, in regards to Oya in Cuba. Candelaria came from the Spanish colonials to the Americas and syncretized so that celebration that is very culturally rooted can happen, okay, in that country under the guise, in a way, of Candelaria. And you see a little Candelaria image in there. Candelaria has been transformed in many ways to fit with the people. What is, and the big news on Bolivia is that it's been syncretized, and I call it that, the traditional medicine people, healers and midwives, have now a project that is funded and sponsored by the government to integrate their know-how into the medical system, and for the medical system to lend their know-how as is applicable to the rural areas, to the clinics, to the facilities. So it is emerging of the medical system with the healers and midwives. For that, you have to have the healers and midwives be very strong in their culture so that they can stand with what they know, and eventually immersion can happen. And they do know how to syncretize because they do this. Next. And here is another one going on today. Today in Brazil, especially in Bahia. In Bahia, they celebrate Yemayá, and there are this bringing flowers. And you see to the right over there, carrying, they're carrying a boat full of flowers that they would bring to Yemayá. Yemayá is the great mother in the Yoruba tradition, which Oya is part of, but Yemayá is the ocean, the great mother ocean, where our life comes from. And you see the folks going to the water, and you see a statue, and the statue is a mermaid. Yeah. And the colonial folks that came to Brazil were not the Spaniards, were the Portuguese. And they don't call Candelaria in Portugal, they call her Bridget or Bridget. And but look at the strength of this celebration, and notice that someone is doing a healing right there in the street to maybe a passerby, a believer. Okay, next. Okay, so what is this? I had to go and look, take a look at Candelaria. So Candelaria, this is the processions that are happening today in the Canary Islands, in Spain, in Portugal, and actually there is some there too of Bolivia. And there is processions also in Mexico. There are processions many places today. And you see how the image changes. Sometimes, okay, the original Candelaria came from the islands, los isleños of the Canary Islands, pre-colonization. When Spain colonized them, they took the Candelaria idea, and is a very dark, it's the darkest, it's a black Candelaria, the original. And now there are many colors of her, but the original is black, and she's carrying a baby on one side and a candle on the other. And candle in Spanish is candela, Candelaria. This is also 40 days from, for the Catholic and Christian folks, 40 days from when Jesus was born to now when it's presented to the temple or the church. But let me get to Bridget, Portugal. In Portugal, they call the Candelaria, and the Catholics called her Bridget. And Bridget is also in Ireland. She's a saint in the Catholic in Ireland. And I don't know if you can see some little hands in the bottom of the slide. Bridget in Ireland is Celtic, predates. It goes from Celtic to Celtic to Wickham to actually you will find some Bridget folks in San Francisco as well. But look at those hands. Bridget's hands, she protects the inner fire, and she's the patron of midwives. besides justice and a warrior for the truth. So that's a bit of the heritage of today. And this is the colonial part of it, the colonizers, that somehow or another brought this part, brought many, but brought this part into the colonies, and how the people reacted to it and the culture reacted to it. Next. Today is the second day of Black History Month. Yes, celebrating that. And I wanted to talk about Black History Month on the context of today, to celebrate the incredible history of the midwives that served this country for generations, the ancestry of the diaspora, and the midwives that are working today. You probably are some of them. The students have a rich heritage, and so in front of the old midwives and you new ones of the future, I want to tell you what settings I used were those births. And before I tell you, do look at under the beautiful pregnant ballerina, there is a midwife, and she has 2 babies in her arms. That was a twin delivery at home. So I think that the ancestors will understand. Okay, so the first birth, the birth of the one who moved around and had the baby standing. Where was that? That was a hospital birth. That was a hospital birth. When she leaned over in that cabinet where the monitor sits on top. Yeah. Okay. It's possible. The second one, where we had a tight cord which produced a shoulder dystocia. That was a home birth. A home birth where I had another midwife and a nurse there. And I had someone also that was going to be the one that took notes and made phone calls. I allocate that position sometimes to somebody. And the team had been alerted. When they got alerted, they were so quickly in arriving. Of course, they didn't arrive until a little after 5 minutes, before 10 minutes. And they were very able to help me out and call the pediatrician for me and settle some things. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes if it's cold, in Florida it happened. This one happened here in Santa Barbara, but in Florida with calling emergency vehicle, if they come, they have to take somebody, period. They are going to take somebody. In this example that I gave you, they came, they helped me, help the situation. Now realize that usually, unless you have an obstetrician or somebody with a higher degree than you do, you are it. You're in charge of the team. So made it work for the situation. And the pediatrician was very good. And when the pediatrician said, I will make rounds, yeah, that meant that he was going to come home over to the house and saw the baby at the house. And that baby and parents did not experience any kind of separation whatsoever. And this is how it needs to be. I can see the old grandmothers smiling. They would have loved that. They would have loved to have this system collaborate with them. What can I tell you? Okay. The welcoming song. The Shumash welcoming song. That was a cesarean. Yes. That Oxidian knife went with the instruments. And this was a planned cesarean because she had multiple scars in the uterus and could not go into labor. Too dangerous. And she was like 42 years old, having her first baby and several miscarriages. So it was a planned cesarean, and it was a collaboration in between the staff at the hospital, the physician, that was very important, the physician that was going to be the main surgeon, anesthesiology had to be on board. Everybody had to be on board for the simple act of welcoming that baby in a traditional way. And it was done. It was done. It's possible. So when we're talking about heritage and the strength of the heritage, I want to bring you to midwifery and the strength of the heritage that we do have. The Black midwife have it, and they are bringing it forth. The Latinas have it. Everybody that is born in this planet has it, because it hasn't been so long since the body of woman was colonized. So it's time to decolonize the setting, help each other, and syncretize what we know and care for. Next. I should ask how my timing is. It's time to decolonize.
We can do a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay. And here are some thoughts that I want to bring you. These are images of Oya. I did put an image of Bridget. That's the one holding the fire to the right. And this is about culture care and owning our strength as midwife who roams the domain of birth. I think that you can read this later. Let's just go to the next slide, since I am running short. Roaming the domain of birth. This little piece of art that I got over there, I've been working on that a couple of years already. And as you see, I placed the tiger inside the belly. And why did I do that? And now I'm talking to you on the year of the tiger. And look at that beautiful tiger and panther. This is a picture of them in the wild. Yeah, we can collaborate. Roam the domain with grace. It is time for you to know that you know what you know, no matter in what setting. And the folks who you are serving have a culture, and that culture can be brought to any setting. And the domain of birth is birth, and birth does exist at home, birth centers, hospitals, and they have to have the same essence. And that comes from the heart of the culture, of the person, of the family, of the heritage. And that is what we need to protect fearlessly. to both be all that we can be. We, last slide. And you can barely see it. So I started a proclamation. I figured that today, being that it's 2/2, there are so many cultures happening. It's a new year. It's the tiger. It brings Oya, protector of the power of the feminine, and strong with her lightning, her male. This is the face she makes. And Bridget with her hands and her fire, with all the cultures that I have mentioned and many more. In Mexico, they're having tamales today, you know, and celebration of the children, of the birth. So syncretizing. And what is that? Is to bring equity into the birth setting. Bring the heart into the birth setting. And when we do that, bring the heart. Sorry, I cry a little. When we bring the heart of midwifery, and when midwifery expands to realize her domain, the domain of birth, and the culture of birth, which is the culture of the people that she and he are serving. We can bring the right care, not the care of the colonizing, but the care of the heart to any setting. And also, in the syncretism that I'm talking about, use and know how to have the structure, the system. We're not in how we can decolonize ourselves. We are not taking the hospitals down. It's impossible. It is a mindset. Fear not. Be fearless. Open your heart. You can be in any setting. Thank you.